A few years after we tossed our graduation caps in the air, Sarah had already made a massive name for herself. At our class reunion, some well-meaning but clueless folks tried to play matchmaker between us. One guy, drink in hand, nudged me and said, "Hey Sarah, remember your little shadow? That guy who followed you everywhere? You're both single, right? Why not give it another go?" Sarah slowly raised her left hand, flashing a polite but totally empty smile. "Actually, I'm married." The table went quiet. Everyone was shocked. I just stared at the tablecloth, not saying a word. Inside, I was completely baffled. I couldn't figure out why Sarah was still wearing that ring. We had been divorced for 3 years. Halfway through the dinner, the class president burst into the room, looking like he'd just won the lottery. "You guys will never guess who showed up!" Everyone turned to look, and for a second, I forgot how to breathe. 3 years had gone by, and Sarah looked even more grown up than I remembered. When she said hello to the group, there was this subtle confidence in her eyes, an aura that screamed success and experience. I'd read somewhere that she was recently named the city's top young entrepreneur and was already worth millions. While everyone rushed to talk to her, I kept my head down, pretending to be busy on my phone. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw she had taken the seat diagonally across from me. Her eyes swept over the table and passed right over me without stopping for even a second. I did notice she had snowflakes melting on the shoulder of her black coat. It must have been really coming down outside. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. The friend sitting next to me elbowed me and joked, "Mark, is that your girlfriend checking up on you? You're popular tonight." She had a loud voice, the kind that carries, so I instinctively glanced toward Sarah. She was chatting with someone else, looking totally calm and indifferent. I chuckled and shook my head. "No, it's just my mom. She's trying to pressure me into going on a blind date next week." Most of the people there were in their late 20s. Some were married with kids, but a lot were like me, dealing with parents who were desperate for grandkids. A few of the guys started venting. "Man, my mom is so pushy about marriage, it's like she's buying livestock. As long as it's a woman and she looks healthy, nothing else matters." "Mark, you better keep your eyes peeled. All the good women get snapped up before they even hit the market." Suddenly, a heavy-set guy stood up and slammed his hand on the table. It was our old class monitor, looking a lot heavier and clearly drunk. "Sarah, remember that sidekick? The guy who followed you around like a puppy?" he slurred. Sarah didn't answer, probably assuming he was too wasted to make sense, but he kept going. "The one who wrote you dozens of love letters. The guy who confessed to you at graduation. Mark, look at him. Since you're both single, why not just try?" Everyone turned their curious eyes on Sarah and me. A decade had passed since high school, but apparently they all remembered that old drama and were hoping for some kind of movie-style closure to our youthful romance. No matter how it ended, they wanted a show. Sarah finally had a reason to look at me. When our eyes met, she slowly lifted her left hand again, smiling that same blank smile. "I'm married." Those 2 words were like a bomb going off. Everyone gasped. "Sarah, when did that happen? Why didn't you tell us? You kept that quiet. We never saw any photos online." I sat there, staring at my shoes, saying absolutely nothing. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Why was she wearing that ring? We had been divorced for 3 whole years. Thinking back on it, it seemed inevitable that Sarah and I would end up divorced. There was no proposal, no big wedding, not even a framed wedding photo. The year we graduated college, her mother was diagnosed with cancer. I brought a huge fruit basket to the hospital to visit her mom, just like I had done a dozen times before. As I was leaving, Sarah suddenly grabbed my hand in the hallway outside the room. "Mark, let's get married." It came out of nowhere, like winning a lottery I hadn't bought a ticket for. I was so worried she would change her mind that I agreed immediately. The day we went to the courthouse to register was just a regular, boring weekend. The office wasn't even crowded. The clerk took our picture and said, "Okay, bride, lean in closer to the groom. Groom, smile a little. Nice." That photo against the red backdrop became the first photo we ever took together. After we said our vows, I basically skipped the boyfriend stage and went straight to being Sarah's husband. At the time, Sarah was just starting her business. To avoid doing long distance, I gave up a pretty solid teaching job at a private school in another state. I followed her advice and moved to her city, preparing to take the state certification exams. Maybe because she knew I had sacrificed my career for her, when we went to pick out rings, Sarah promised we'd have a real wedding once the business was stable. I decided to be the supportive husband and chose a simple, inexpensive ring. I cared more about her sincerity than the metal on my finger. After we got married, we rented a tiny apartment, maybe 400 square feet. It wasn't big, but life felt sweet. We'd hold hands walking through the grocery store on weekends and cuddle in the middle of the night. A year later, her mom passed away. She cried in my arms for hours. "Mark, I have no family left." Sarah's parents had divorced when she was young, and her mom had incredibly high expectations and was very controlling. A lot of people thought Sarah was cold, but I thought maybe she just desperately wanted to be loved. I comforted her over and over, telling her, "You still have me. I'm your family, too." Sarah buried herself in her work to cope with the grief. She worked insane hours and skipped meals, which eventually gave her gastritis and landed her in the hospital. After that scare, I started bringing homemade meals to her office every day. That's where I met Jason. Sarah's business was finally taking off, and she had gathered a team of like-minded people. One of them was Jason, a junior of hers from the computer science department. He had won software design competitions and had a ton of experience. Sarah really respected that he had left a big tech firm to join her startup. I would stand quietly at the door of her office with a thermos in my hand, listening to them talk about things completely over my head. They would be in the middle of an intense discussion, and then they'd pause, reaching an agreement on some technical issue. I saw admiration in Sarah's eyes. "Good, let's go with your plan," she'd say. I felt hollow. I had never seen Sarah look at me like that. Lost in thought, Jason nodded toward the door. "Sarah, your boyfriend is here." She glanced back, correcting him quickly. "It's my husband." "Right, sorry, I always get that wrong. You don't see many young marriages like yours these days." I awkwardly set the thermos on the desk, suddenly feeling like I didn't belong there. As I was leaving, I heard Jason ask Sarah, "Your husband isn't in this industry, is he? What does he do? Teacher?" Sarah seemed reluctant to talk about me at work. Jason was curious. "I have friends teaching at universities. Maybe they know him. Is he a high school teacher?" "College," she said. "He's still preparing for his exams." "Oh, that explains why he has time to bring you food. Don't worry, those exams are pretty easy to pass these days." But what seemed easy for Jason was a nightmare for me. I hadn't been able to find a job for a long time. My old college counselor had contacted me recently about a job opening, but because it was out of state, Sarah had firmly opposed it. I looked down at the test prep books spread across our kitchen table. With a slight smile, Sarah tried to encourage me. "Mark, this isn't hard. Just try a little harder next time and you'll pass for sure." I bit my lip, unable to say anything. Sarah seemed to forget that I wasn't naturally brilliant like her. The math problems other people solved in one try took me 10 attempts. I didn't have many talents, but I could persist, especially when it came to chasing her. Sarah was a genius, always at the top of the class. I was an art student, usually scraping the bottom. Back in the day, just to get into the university next to hers, I buried myself in the studio, painting until my fingers blistered. Whose standard was she using when she said it wasn't hard? It was clear I was starting to overthink things. In my dreams, the person standing next to Sarah wasn't me anymore. It was Jason, who seemed like much more of a match for her. I just couldn't keep up with her. No matter how loud I called, she never looked back. Maybe she noticed I was down lately. After finishing a big project, Sarah leaned into my arms on the couch and said, "I'm not too busy right now, so maybe we can finally have that wedding ceremony. I can take half a month off for a honeymoon, too. Sound good?" Just like that, she managed to cheer me up. But planning a wedding wasn't as simple as I thought. Even with a wedding planner, I couldn't help but worry about every detail, from the venue to the menu to the flowers. After all, this was my one and only wedding. Just designing the customized candy boxes kept me up for several nights. I was more focused on this than I had been on my senior thesis. One night, I excitedly handed the finished designs to Sarah. She glanced up quickly from her laptop and said, "Yeah, looks good." I hesitated, staring at the drawings. I can't decide between these two boxes. This one holds more, but this one looks fancier. Sarah, who was typing a message to someone, answered without looking up. "Either is fine." Her voice was light and completely unbothered. I suddenly didn't feel like talking about it anymore. Seeing my silence, Sarah closed her laptop and leaned against me, asking, "Where did you leave off?" I forced a smile. "It's nothing. You go ahead. It's not that important." A week before the wedding was supposed to happen, I was on my usual errand, delivering lunch to Sarah. Just as I got back to our apartment, I got a call from the wedding planner. They said there was an urgent decision needed for the ceremony setup, a choice between two different archways. Unsure, I tried calling Sarah, but she didn't pick up. I rushed back to her office. When I walked in, I saw Sarah throwing the lunch I had just brought her straight into the garbage can without a second thought. Jason was standing nearby, joking with her. "You're so ungrateful. Your husband is so good to you, and you're still not satisfied." He was teasing, but her tone was sharp. "You think I want to waste food? It's just that discussing the project with you made it go cold. I can't eat cold food." All right, say no more. Let me treat you this time." "What do you want to eat?" Jason offered. Sarah neatly stacked the containers in the trash, like she had done this a million times before. Then, with a heavy sigh, she said, "Sometimes he's just too nice to me. It makes me feel so pressured." In that moment, the smell of spoiled food from the trash can hit me, and I felt sick to my stomach. I turned around and ran. Sarah called me several times that afternoon. Before, I would have answered on the first ring, but this time I just turned my phone off. When she got home that evening, she found me sitting on the floor, surrounded by shredded paper. Those were the love letters I had written to her in high school. 18 of them, filled with genuine, stupid, youthful affection. She recognized them immediately and rushed over to stop me. "Mark, what are you doing? And why did you call the planner to cancel the wedding?" I struggled free from her grip. I picked up a whole letter and tore it down the middle right in front of her face. It felt like I was ripping through the fake image of our relationship. Looking at her, I said, "Maybe to you, I'm like a pet cat. You play with me when you want, and ignore me when you don't. You don't care to understand me. You're not curious about what I'm thinking. My words don't matter. My feelings don't matter. Sarah, you see marrying me as some act of charity." Sarah grabbed my wrist tightly. Is this about Jason? Someone mentioned you visited the office this afternoon. I shook my head. Even if it's not Jason, it would be someone else. She didn't believe me and tried to explain. I've told you, we are just colleagues. We never hang out alone. You can check my phone if you want, read my messages, anything. But as I continued shaking my head, she finally got frustrated. Mark, you are really going to make a huge fuss over something so trivial? I suddenly became very calm. You see, Sarah, even now, you think I'm the one being unreasonable. Sometimes I wonder if we're just not meant for each other. If I'm forcing things. I can't understand the algorithms and technical terms you use, and you have zero interest in my comics or movies. You hate it when I touch your stuff. You don't like sharing your work or life with me, but if I chat too much with one of your female colleagues, you give me the cold shoulder all night. But Sarah, I have feelings too. I get sad and I get hurt. Even so, I've been doing everything I can for you because you said I'm your only family in this world. But after I've taken 99 steps towards you, you won't even take one toward me. Worse, you're backing away. Tears welled up, and I couldn't stop them anymore. Sarah, I'm so tired. I had chased after Sarah with all my heart for years. It was her who reached out to me. She said she wanted to spend her life with me. I believed her and gave my heart entirely. But my selfless love felt lost, like it vanished into thin air with no return investment. I grew confused. I became insecure. I became jealous and ugly. I had lost who I used to be. I didn't know what was left in this marriage that still had meaning. Under Sarah's gaze, I slowly slid my wedding ring off my finger. I forced myself to say the words. Sarah, let's get a divorce. Her eyes turned red, and her voice trembled a bit. Are you sure? Sarah was a proud person. Of course she wouldn't beg me to stay. I knew that. I watched her gaze slowly grow cold. Fine. You said it, Mark. Since you want a divorce, don't regret it. Back in the present, the class reunion was winding down when a massive snowstorm suddenly hit the mountain. The hot spring estate we rented was way up in the hills, so the roads were blocked. I had to change plans and spend the night at the lodge, with everyone else, hoping to drive out once the snow eased in the morning. While soaking in the hot spring, the guys were chatting idly. Man, back in high school I had such a crush on the class belle. Now I can only say time is brutal. Yeah, who would have thought the wildest girl in our class turned into such a responsible mom? And well, Sarah hasn't changed much from before. Before and after marriage, she's the same. Speaking of Sarah, she wasn't even on our guest list originally. I asked the class president, and she said Sarah dropped a huge project kickoff just to come here. That's odd. Sarah was always a loner in high school. She wasn't close enough with anyone to show up for a class reunion. I felt a weird urge to dial that old familiar number. Over the past 3 years, Sarah had sent me exactly 3 texts. The first was the month following our divorce. You left some clothes in my closet. Want to pick them up this weekend? The second was during a holiday the following year. I brought some things to visit your parents. I'm downstairs at your place. The third was simply, Mark. She probably regretted that one right after she hit send. Whatever else she wanted to say remained a mystery. I never responded to any of them. When the official stamp marked our divorce papers, I had decided to cut off all feelings for her completely. If it wasn't for this reunion, Sarah and I probably would have stayed strangers forever. After the hot springs, I said my goodbyes to everyone in the lobby. They had other plans, but I was ready to head to bed. From a distance, I saw Sarah standing in the hallway with her arms crossed, as if she was waiting for someone. I walked past her, deliberately looking away. She called out, "Mark!" I ignored her and lowered my head to unlock my door with the key card. Suddenly, a hand pressed down on the door handle, stopping me. Sarah's voice finally showed some emotion. "Mark, what's this about you dating someone new?" I was getting more confused by the second. We'd been divorced for 3 years. What right did she have to interfere in my personal life? At this time of night, our classmates planned to play board games in the recreation room all night, and I didn't want anyone to see us fighting in the hallway. But Sarah tightened her grip on my arm, practically dragging me away. "Mark, let's talk," she insisted. A nameless anger rose up in me. I snapped back. "There's nothing to talk about. It's just like you heard. I'm not getting any younger. What's wrong with dating?" She didn't stop. "I don't allow it." I laughed out loud. "Sarah, have you forgotten? We are divorced." Something I said must have struck a nerve. She replied bitterly, "I know. Of course I know. But we've known each other for so many years. Don't I have the right to ask about it?" I finally shook her off. Before I could respond, someone interrupted us. "Mark, Sarah, you're still up? Great, the class president is stuck, chatting with his wife. We're short on players. Want to join?" I didn't want Sarah to keep bothering me, so I agreed quickly. But she followed me into the game room like a shadow. During a game of truth or dare, a male classmate who I wasn't very close to got a chance to ask a question, and I was the target. He didn't make it difficult, just a routine truth question about where I worked. After I answered, everyone was surprised. "So, Mark, you started as an art teacher in a training center, then got poached by a student's parent to be a children's book illustrator? That's basically changing careers completely. Impressive." "I hate my job, but I don't have the guts to start over like you," someone said. Then, someone who used to have a crush on Sarah chimed in sarcastically. "What's so impressive about that? Being so close with another woman in the middle of the night is what's impressive." I couldn't do anything about it. Sarah and I had walked in together. With how that guy phrased it, it was hard for people not to get the wrong idea. I looked at Sarah, waiting for her to clear things up, but all I got from her was silence. Maybe she was still mad, and this was her way of getting back at me. Or maybe it was because she found the thought of being married to me so embarrassing back then that she didn't want to explain it now. She didn't even introduce me to her friends or bring me into her circle back then. I didn't doubt that if I hadn't called her honey in front of Jason that day, she never would have publicly acknowledged we were together. Eventually, the class president changed the mood. When we started playing Never Have I Ever, the atmosphere got lively again as people shared secrets to avoid drinking. My best friend shared, "I once found a love tape with my ex and me. None of you had that, did you? Drink up." "That's nothing," another guy said. "At my most love-struck, I even paid for my ex's hotel room when she was there with her new boyfriend." A muscular athlete quietly added, "I've been with the same sex." Finally, a quiet classmate turned it around with, "I have a daughter." Someone noticed Sarah hadn't touched her drink. "Sarah, no cheating now." It could have gone unnoticed, but Sarah announced without skipping a beat, "I didn't cheat. I have a daughter." The room went dead silent. My glass slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. She had achieved her goal. The game ended right there, and Sarah dragged me out of the room. Everyone quickly pieced the truth together. Sarah and I were married, divorced, and she had a daughter. After our divorce, people started texting me like crazy. "So Sarah came for you today, huh? Are you guys the real-life second-chance romance?" "Mark, you better cherish her. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone like Sarah." "I trust my best friend. She did all this for you. Just forgive her already." Apparently, they didn't just message me. Sarah waved her phone at me and said, Looks like everyone is rooting for us to get back together. I put my phone face down on the table. Well, they're going to be disappointed. She smoothly poured me a glass of water, smirking. Mark, stop lying to yourself. Sarah shared the truth about our years apart. Not even a month after our divorce, she found out she was pregnant. The doctor said given her history, if she terminated the pregnancy, conceiving again might be impossible. After thinking about it, she decided to keep it. She hoped this child could reconnect us. She named our daughter Lily. Lily is only 3, but she's already doing math up to 100. Thanks to my genes, Sarah bragged. My face darkened. So you just used me as a free sperm donor? She nodded, actually accepting the claim. I jumped up. All right, good. Sarah, you are really something else. That was the last thing I said to her at the reunion. I'll admit, I said it just to make her mad. I figured after that, she'd leave me alone. But a week later, there she was, standing outside my apartment building. Sarah glanced at the grocery bag I was carrying with a hint of a laugh in her voice. Weren't you supposed to go on a blind date? Why didn't you go? When I ignored her, she added, I came to visit your folks, and I brought Lily along. She looked up your cousins here already. I live on the 3rd floor. I followed her gaze. A young girl stood next to a cute little kid, probably Lily. Sarah looked in the same direction, smiling tenderly. In the past, during New Year's visits, Sarah had met my younger cousin. Maybe she didn't remember clearly and got it wrong. This time I corrected her seriously. That's not my cousin. That's my girlfriend. Sarah's face twisted for a second before she laughed it off. Mark, that's a lousy excuse. You say you're going on a blind date, yet you have a girlfriend. You think I'd buy that? Having a girlfriend was true. Being pushed for blind dates by my mom was also true, but I didn't bother explaining. Believe what you want? I turned to leave, but she grabbed my arm, stopping me. Neighbors passing by kept glancing our way. I had no choice but to agree to bring her upstairs. My parents were cooking, and it was Chloe who opened the door. She wore a white knitted sweater, giving off a really youthful vibe. Seeing Sarah behind me, her smile got wider. You're back! Then she leaned in and kissed me right on the lips, like no one else was there. Sarah's face turned sour. Chloe definitely did that on purpose. Inside, Chloe played the part of the gracious girlfriend, pouring tea for Sarah. I know you, she said politely. Meanwhile, Lily wasn't shy at all, playing with toys in the living room. Sarah tried to regain control. Lily, come to Mom. Let me introduce you. This is Dad. But Lily just cried louder, stubbornly pushing Sarah away, like she hated the reality she was being forced to face. Even though Lily wasn't physically that strong, Sarah seemed to deflate, sitting on the floor. Maybe Lily couldn't accept a dad suddenly showing up out of nowhere. Before things got more awkward, I told Sarah, I saw my daughter, and I gave you what you asked for. Maybe you should go. She hushed Lily, keeping her voice low. Mark, you're just dying to kick me out so you can be all lovey-dovey with your girlfriend, right? At that point, my mom came out of the kitchen. Sarah, why don't you and the little one stay for lunch? Sarah readily agreed. When she went to the bathroom, my mom pulled me aside. Just like I thought, she wanted me to reconcile with Sarah. Mark, you're still young. Listen to your mom. Marriage needs compromise and understanding. Don't be stubborn. And Sarah has your child. She's such a sweet little girl. Think about it for her sake. And isn't Chloe going abroad after vacation? Are you going to do a long-distance thing? You think with your age difference, plus your daughter with your ex-wife, you and she have a future? I see Sarah wants to reconcile, so I won't push you to date anyone new. But consider Lily's well-being. Maybe everyone, including my parents, thought I was being foolish. They didn't understand why I'd refuse Sarah, who in their eyes did nothing wrong in our marriage. Or why, when she came back successful, child in tow, wanting to work things out, I stayed firm. In their eyes, Sarah was a smart, successful woman, a perfect daughter-in-law. Yet to me, she was a cold and self-centered wife. But Chloe was different. It was Chloe who first showed me relationships could be equal, healthy, and passionate. I first met Chloe at a bookstore. Every weekend, I loved being there, watching kids enjoy my picture books. It filled me with happiness. Then Chloe showed up, a big kid, really. Sarah used to mock my doodling, saying I was childish for my age, so I'd feel a bit embarrassed when adults looked at those books. But Chloe genuinely liked them, buying my entire collection. I remembered her, and later she interned at our publishing house. That's when I learned her name was Chloe, a senior literature major at Sarah's old university. Her thesis was on translating children's literature, so she offered to assist with getting my books out internationally. Chloe seemed to understand the bizarre stories I cooked up, like the one about a rabbit with no ears finding an egg, or a crocodile born into a duck family. One day, she was reading one of my drafts. Miss Brown Bear, desperate to find Honey Mountain, asks everyone for directions. Mr. Cat says it's near Milk Lake, and Miss Dog says near Bone Tower. Uncle Crow mentions Bread Bridge. It clicked for her. There's no Honey Mountain. She's been tricked. I chewed my pen, daydreaming. Maybe there really is one if she just keeps climbing higher and higher. After her internship ended, Chloe started asking me out. Knowing I was divorced didn't faze her. She said, "I like your interesting soul. It's not about age or titles." I knew she'd be leaving to study abroad, so from the start, I didn't plan to be with this girl who was 5 years younger than me. Even when she said she'd stay for me, I refused firmly. She stepped back. "Then let's be together till winter break. I don't ask for much. Just 3 months." She smiled shyly. "This is my first love. It's hard to say no." I knew I was already into her, so I said yes. 3 months. Just enough to leave no regrets. Back in the apartment, after lunch with my folks, taking Lily out for a walk, Chloe sneakily pulled me into the bedroom. Leaning against the desk, she nervously kissed me. Feeling my response, she accidentally kneeled onto the chair, bumping into it loudly. Sarah's voice suddenly rang out from outside the door. "Mark, what are you guys up to?" Me and Chloe were making out like crazy inside. The knocking on the door became relentless. At that moment, I had just one thought. Why is Sarah still here? It was so annoying. Finally, Sarah's knocking was practically noise pollution. Only then did Chloe let go of me. She unlocked the door and licked her lips impatiently. "What do you think we're doing?" Sarah saw my swollen lips, and her eyes turned red, too. She pushed Chloe aside and barged into my bedroom. On the bookshelf right across from the door was a whole row of sample picture books we had just received. Mine and Chloe's names were side by side in the most prominent spot. Avoiding eye contact with the books, she glimpsed at the photo on the desk instead. She stared at my bright, blinding smile in the picture, taking a while before speaking. It was the first time I heard her sound so humble. "Mark, I overheard what your mom said to you. Chloe is leaving the country soon, and Lily is too young. She can't grow up without a father's love. I know you're still in the honeymoon phase and won't listen to what I'm saying. That's okay. I can wait." She took a deep breath, sounding like she made a decision. "I can wait for you to break up." Chloe scoffed. "Get real. He stopped loving you a long time ago." Sarah didn't bother me again until after the New Year. Just a few days ago, Chloe flew to France to study. Before she left, she kissed me at the airport, and I tasted her salty tears. She whispered in my ear, "Thank you for the 3 months. I was very happy. I need to tell you a secret." It was love at first sight for me. My heart ached. I guess I overestimated myself. I couldn't say goodbye as casually as I imagined, but I had to pull myself together and get ready for the International Children's Book Fair in Bologna, Italy. Out of nowhere, Sarah started calling me non-stop. By the 10th call, I couldn't help but pick up and yell, "Sarah, what the hell is wrong with you? Mark, you can't go! Stop the car!" I didn't get what she was saying. I glanced in the rearview mirror and froze. Sarah was driving her black SUV, crazily chasing my car. "Sarah, what are you doing? Are you nuts?" She swerved wildly, passing another car. "I'm crazy! Maybe then you'll stay from me!" she screamed. Right then, I heard a loud crash from behind. I couldn't see her SUV in the mirror anymore. I quickly told the driver to pull over. Sarah did have an accident. Luckily, it wasn't too serious. She swerved to avoid a pedestrian and crashed into the guardrail. I called 911 for her and was ready to leave, but she pushed open her car door and collapsed to her knees. Her forehead was bleeding, but she grabbed me tight, looking at me with pleading eyes like an abandoned puppy. "Mark, I regret it. I've regretted it for a long time. Please don't leave with her, okay?" I realized Sarah must have misunderstood something, but she soon passed out and was taken away by the paramedics. Of course, I left. This competition was crucial for me. A week later, when I got back, I visited Sarah at the hospital just as a courtesy. Sarah had broken her leg. Her head was bandaged. She sat there listless and asked, "Where's your girlfriend?" Calmly, I replied, "We broke up." She dropped her cup, water spilling all over the blanket. Sarah said, "Oh," like it was nothing, but I saw the joy brightening her face. A few days later, the nurse station called me after work. "Are you Sarah's relative? She has therapy today and needs a family member present." I got calls like this several times a week after that. I even learned to answer quickly. "Okay, got it." I'd seen Sarah's x-rays. Her fracture wasn't that bad. There was no reason it shouldn't be healing. My mom even made bone broth, hoping to strengthen her recovery. But my mom had other plans too. Determined to help my marriage prospects, she planned to introduce me to her old friend's daughter, a doctor in the hospital next to Sarah's. I didn't refuse. I had something I wanted to check anyway. I set the date at the hospital cafe downstairs. Dr. Evans was 3 years older than me, once married, but her husband had died of cancer. She hadn't wanted to remarry for years, but agreed to meet me under family pressure. That put my mind at ease. I had no baggage to hide. Not long after I sat down, Sarah called me. "Mark, why aren't you at therapy? Where'd you go?" Calmly sipping my tea, I said, "I'm downstairs on a date. See you later." Then I started a stopwatch on my phone. At 4 minutes and 32 seconds, Sarah appeared, out of breath, using crutches. My calculations were right. With her alleged injury, it should have taken 10 minutes. Sarah's leg was clearly healed. She'd been faking it. I lifted the timer and said sarcastically, "A medical miracle." She clutched her stomach, her voice faint. "Mark, I don't feel well." I wasn't buying it. "Sarah, using the same tricks over and over isn't going to work." Her lips turned pale as she reached out, but she fainted before touching me. Sarah had stomach issues for years. I kept reminding her to eat properly, but she didn't listen. Now it got serious. Stomach cancer. Thankfully, it was mid-stage, still treatable after surgery to remove part of the tumor. Sarah looked aged overnight. Visiting her, she lay there murmuring, "Lately things seem clearer." My heart must have been sick for a long time, always pushing you away to test your love. And when you held me tight, I didn't think I deserved to be loved. So I pulled back and kept quiet, hurting you deeply each time. Through sobs, she said, "Mark, I've been so wrong these years. It's my fault. This is my doing, my own karma. I deserve this. I deserve to die." Even though Sarah really hurt me in the past, I didn't feel any thrill of revenge in that moment. Instead, it felt like a weight on my chest. I waved my hand and said, "All right, just focus on your treatment. Stop overthinking it. My parents will help take care of Lily in the meantime while you're recovering." "Thanks." Then Sarah pointed to a metal box under the bed, signaling me to open it. Inside were 18 love letters, hardened by layers of Scotch tape. "Mark, I fixed them up. I thought I could mend things." I picked one up, holding its youthful yet intense love to the sunlight. It lit up, but there were holes and tear marks all over. "Sarah, you see, with things that are already broken, even if you try hard to fix them, cracks are unavoidable." She sighed deeply. "Yeah, you're right." Maybe for the first time, Sarah realized we really couldn't go back. As I was leaving the hospital, I unexpectedly ran into an old acquaintance. Jason was helping his pregnant, blue-eyed, blonde wife down the stairs. He recognized me too, and after saying a few words to her, he came over. "Mark, long time no see." 3 years had passed, and I could finally meet his eyes and greet him naturally without feeling that inexplicable inferiority. As it turned out, Jason had left the company right after Sarah and I divorced. Though Sarah never said anything, he could sense her gaze carried blame. After all, on the day Sarah and I had our falling out, Jason had indeed pulled her aside to discuss project progress. This caused Sarah to miss her mealtime, leading to the scene where I caught her throwing out the food. He felt guilty, and even saw a therapist about it later. "Come on, don't look at me with that guilty face. If it weren't for that incident, I wouldn't have met my wife." Seeing him say that, I felt even more embarrassed and apologized, admitting I was once jealous of him. "Don't say that. I hope you'd use a different word." "What word?" "Admiration. I'd rather hear you say you admired me." Talking about Sarah's situation, Jason wasn't surprised at all. "She's just self-sabotaging, a typical avoidant personality developed from childhood lack of love. Selfish and stubborn. Only cares about her own feelings and not the partner's, rarely compromising for them. To sum it up, if you love her, she doesn't love you. If you don't love her, she's head over heels for you. Suffice to say, you're lucky you got out in time." In the end, we exchanged contact information. "When my baby's born, don't forget to send over a set of your children's books," he said, waving goodbye and cheekily winking. "Oh, and I want a signed copy." After a year of post-surgery chemotherapy, Sarah basically recovered. The doctor said as long as she takes care of herself and stops self-sabotaging, she could live to a ripe old age. But she seemed addicted to self-torture. She got a lawyer and early on drew up a will, leaving everything to me and Lily. The last time we met, she held my hand lightly and asked, "Mark, is there really no chance for us?" But before I could reply, she continued, "Forget it. Don't answer. At least I still have Lily." 2 years later. At the publishing house, everyone had their hands together, as if they were part of some odd ritual. During a break in my drawing, I looked up, unable to help, but ask, "What are you all doing?" They said, "The International Hans Christian Andersen Award list is about to be announced. We're all on edge, except the person involved is so calm." Someone noted, "Another illustrator jokingly cast a jinx on us. Considering it's the Nobel of Children's Literature, so few illustrators from our country even get nominated. The hopes aren't high. It's the thought that counts. Just then, a voice spoke up. The results are out. The place erupted. How did it go? Come on, don't keep us hanging. We made the short list. That moment felt like a dream. Before I could jump in excitement, everyone rushed over, cheering and tossing me up. My childhood dream was simple. When everyone else was dreaming of being scientists and astronauts, I just wanted to bring joy to every kid. Maybe I still had a long way to go, but I was certain I was on the right path now. I heard Sarah was recently named one of the city's outstanding young entrepreneurs again, already worth millions at her young age. But that world felt very far away. Mark! Who's Mark? There's a flower delivery for you. Come sign for it. Everyone teased. The language of hydrangeas is reunion, you know. Mark, who's sending you this? I accepted the flowers, and a card fell out. I picked it up. In flowing script, it said, "Congrats to my brown bear on finding his honey mountain." My heart started racing, and I quickly asked the delivery guy, "Where's the person who sent this? Have they left?" "They're still here, waiting for you outside," he replied. I rushed outside. Someone stood in the night, arms wide open. When I embraced Chloe, I remembered what Jason had once told me. "Mark, good love helps you grow." "Congrats," she whispered against my neck. "Looks like you found the right one."